what are we going to do? What are we going to start with
Okay, first
today?
of all, we're going to set up the batter. This is an old book I had in the 70s when I was a hippie. It's just got so many great recipes in it. Look, it's like it's falling apart. But I adapted a little bit to my needs. I'm never one to follow a recipe exactly. That's why it's a little frustrating for people who say, how do you do this? And I go, well, you know. So we'll do a little bit of that today. But just keep in mind that sourdough baking has been happening for thousands and thousands of years. And there are many different ways to do it. And a lot of different things work.
And it also can depend on like where you are and your climate and the type of flour that you're using. So you really have to experiment a lot, and it's a lot of trial and error. So it's definitely something that you need some patience for, but it's totally worth it.
People have so many different theories on, you know, how to do it and how to treat your sourdough. But I guess we would actually begin with taking a peek at our sourdough starter. This starter I got from a neighbor whose mother had started it years and years before. So this sourdough actually originates back about, gosh, at least 20 years.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it just, you keep adding to it and it grows and grows and you share.
Can I smell it?
Absolutely.
Sourdoughy.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I have a question. Can you make sourdough bread without a starter? Or without like a passed down starter? Can you make a starter?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, you can. It's about...
That's probably the trickiest part.
Yeah, you can do your own
Getting it
starter.
going.
It takes a week or 7 or 8 days or something. But you can do it, and there's ways to do it, and there's instructions all over the internet, and probably some of them conflict, but you definitely can make your own
But
starter.
better yet, find friends
Yes.
who can give you the starter to get you on your way.
Yeah.
Yes, it sort of gives the bread a story.
Yeah.
And it's a very community thing, neighborly, fun thing. Like, you know, everybody has troubles now and then, you know, where there's sourdough, something happens, they go on vacation, they come back, it's not working, or, you know, one time it was a warm summertime, I left mine out on the counter too long and it got yucky, and I just called my friend up. She has the same starter from the same original batch, and she just gave me a little bit, and yeah, we trade around like that all the time.
Oh, that's so
It's
neat.
fun. It just gives a sense of connection.
Absolutely.
And I started baking bread back when I was like, you know, young person, probably had my own place for the first time, and I started making bread, and I knew that it was fun and it felt good, and I was just sort of thinking, I wonder why this feels so satisfying. And it occurred to me that I was doing something that people, primarily women probably, have been doing for thousands and thousands of years, and it connected me with ancestors. You know, it took I was doing something that was pre-industrial, pre-modern, and it just felt really good. It felt like this is like a human endeavor.
Totally. And I feel
Yeah.
like in this time, people have been baking more than ever.
Yes.
And maybe they're longing to make something with their hands, but also have that connectedness, since we can't necessarily
Yes.
be near each other right now.
Yeah, and even if they don't know how to articulate it. And it is true that there's been a sudden surge in interest in sourdough. People can't find yeast in the store. And we've had a lot of requests about, oh, you know, where can you get sourdough and how do you do it and all that.
And people
So-
are home for a long amount of time, which is
Yeah.
another part of it, because it's kind of a multiple step. What did someone say the other day? It's not like it takes a long time, but it's like time,
you have to be home.
I don't know.
You need to be
Time
home.
intense.
Yeah.
You have to be focused. Uh-oh, this might be hard for me if you have to be focused.
You have to focus for small, like little spurts.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay, so you do something and then you leave it, and then you do something and then you leave
And
it.
the
It's
steps-
actually good if you're like, I'm all over the
Yes.
place, scatterbrained, and it's like really fun.
Okay, cool.
All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is feeding your starter. As you use it and it's, you know, the amount goes down, you'll want to replenish it. And it's best to give it a little time after you fed it before you use it. But honestly, many times I'll just feed it and use it immediately. You know, I don't think that's a really strict rule in my book. Some people might disagree, but anyway.
So it's like a little pet that you have to take care of.
It is, kind of. It's a living thing. It's like just loaded with living organisms.
I just feel like
And they need to be fed.
my pet died one time.
That
I didn't do
happens.
it right.
It happens. So what I do, and like I said, you're going to find a lot of different ways of doing this.
Mhm.
I just, if it needs a little pick-me-up, it hasn't been done in a while, I'll just feed it with equal parts of flour and water. So I'm going to do 1/2 cup right now. 1/2 cup flour.
Mhm.
Thank you. 1/2 cup water. Stir it up. And you will see that, you know, it will happily start bubbling, and then you'll know it's good. It's liking it. And my personal preference is that it be about the consistency of pancake batter. That's the way I like to use it. A lot of people like it, you know, less liquid. Some people even have like kind of a little solid brick sourdough thing, but this is what I do. And you start with equal amounts. But if that's, I think this is a little tiny bit on the liquidy side, so I'm going to just add a little more flour to thicken it up a tiny bit. And this is just all, you know, kind of intuitive.
Right.
There's nothing.
And what kind of flour are you using?
I'm using einkorn flour.
Ah, that's an ancient grain, right?
Yes, they say it's the original species of grain, like back when the humans first started growing grain. They say it's the original species. Now, I don't know how they know that, but that's what they say.
Right.
And the value of baking with einkorn nowadays is that it's a simpler plant. It hasn't been genetically modified. It hasn't been hybridized. So it's a lot easier for the human digestive system to assimilate. And it's more nutrient dense because the nutrients have not been bred out over time. As we've moved into an industrialized food system where yield takes precedence over nutritional value, unfortunately, our grain products have become less and less nutrient dense and harder to digest.
It's the whole thing. It's our philosophy about eating. We feel like we're getting a good deal if we get quantity instead of quality. If you go to a fine dining restaurant, often the portions are so small, you're like, hey, am I getting what I paid for? Absolutely, because it's quality over quantity.
Yes.
So that's what I hear you saying with the einkorn. I get it.
Yeah, and I like to think in terms of nutrient availability and nutrient density versus, like you said, quantity, weight, and so forth. So,
can I stir?
You may, and feel
I'm making sourdough. Sourdough bread with einkorn wheat.
Yeah, so you can feel that consistency. Does that feel to you like pancake batter?
It feels perfect.
Yeah. That's right about right.
And then the more it grows, the more you can not only use, but then save for later, right?
Yes.
And you can share it. That's part of how you share the starter, correct?
And if I want to make more, if mine's running low, I just feed it more or less or whatever I feel like I need. Now, when you have it sitting in your refrigerator on your counter for a while, it's going to form this kind of clear liquid on top, or kind of a brownish liquid. You can just pour that off. It's harmless, but just pour it off. And this battery part is what you want to use. Some people actually will take a cup of starter to feed it and then dump the rest because they want to keep all the proportions equal. I don't do that. I've never done that. That's in the interest of keeping everything all balanced. But I find if I stick to this rule of the pancake batter consistency, that it works fine. You see a lot of articles like, what do you do with your your sourdough waste? And I don't have any because I don't dump it out. I just keep doing the flour and water until it's the right consistency and we're good to go. But I do pour off that liquid that forms on top. Sourdough starter, 2 cups water, honey, salt, butter. Yes.
So what happens next?
All right, we're going to put the dough together.
Okay.
I'm going to start it. Okay. So we're going to start out with a cup of sourdough starter.
I love these cups, by the way. They're just so beautiful.
Enjoy the colorful. 2 cups of warm water. Now, I'll take this opportunity to say, since the sourdough is comprised of microorganisms, you don't want to use anything hot because it'll actually kill them. But warm encourages the growth.
Can I try?
Yeah.
I want to be able to say I helped. Can I help?
Yes.
So we're going to pour it in this guy.
Yeah, okay, stop there. Okay, that's 1. Okay, and then do it again. 2.
About there?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
All right. Now, you want 1 to 4 tablespoons of raw honey. And this is local honey from right here in our neighborhood. It's the company is Honey Effects by Joe Long is the beekeeper. And so I love to use local things whenever possible. And
they say if you have local honey in your diet,
yeah,
you're less likely to suffer from allergies like of pollen and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, because you're building up immunity to what's in your environment.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, I don't, 1 to 4 tablespoons, I don't really measure. I just kind of look at it. Yeah, I feel like that's about right. Doesn't really matter.
Hey, I want the privilege.
And honey is antibiotic. It kills bacteria. So, and its shelf life is forever. Like literally thousands of years. It does not go bad.
That's amazing.
They found it in like mummy tombs and stuff. Okay, I'm going to stir this up a little bit. And then I'm going to add, this recipe calls for a tablespoon of salt, but I found that was a little too much for my taste. I think probably because I use the salted butter as the fat in it. So I adjust with that, and I just do 2 teaspoons instead of 3. Okay. And I melted, it calls for a 1/2 cup of unrefined oil. I prefer to use grass-fed butter. I think the flavor's like really nice, and it just adds nutrition to the bread.
How many loaves do you think you've made in your lifetime?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't begin to guess. I don't know.
I'm guessing I've made like 1.
I really, I don't know. I'm sure I've made hundreds.
Yeah, at least 100.
I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say. All right, I'm stirring this up. Okay, now this is the liquid part of the dough. And just let that kind of integrate itself for a minute. The honey is actually feeding the sourdough. It's activating it because the sourdough eats sugar. And so if you just let this sit a minute, it'll get it going so that when you add the flour, it'll be really, really doing its thing. So we'll leave that for 5 minutes or so.
So, how's it going, guys?
It's going good. The batter is now ready to add, well, not batter, the dough. The liquid part of the dough is now ready to add the flour.
Now, does it matter if people are using einkorn or not? What's specific about einkorn besides the wonderful benefits you told me?
Yes.
What were you saying?
I have found that when I use einkorn, I end up needing to add more water as I go because it's drier or sucks up more water or something. I don't know exactly the science, but the dough is very sticky and it's harder to work with, and just adding a little bit more water and a little bit more flour when you get to that phase, to the kneading phase, adding more flour on top so it's not so sticky.
I think the key is feeling confident enough to adjust. If it's too sticky, you can always add a little more flour. If it's too dense, add a little more water. Just keep working with it, and once you've made bread a few times, you'll get to know that like when it's right. So the recipe calls for 6 cups of whole wheat flour. I'm using einkorn flour. It's probably going to take less, but I'm going to have to work with it. And I don't even have, well, that measuring cup has water in it. So I'm just going to start like putting water in. Putting flour in. And, that's about 2/3 of a cup or whatever.
I love your measurements.
I know.
This is the way I do it. And then you just start stirring, and then you'll want to add more. And now my spoon's wet, so I'm going to have to like do this. This is like, I know this is like, some of you bakers out there are going, oh my God, look what she's doing. But like I said,
I feel like as we get more confident, we'll be able to improvise more like you're doing. We might need to stick more to the recipe when we're just starting out, right?
Sure, but like I said, I go for, consistency is everything. Like if I only added 4 cups and it was like really thick and the recipe said add 2 more cups of flour, that would ruin it. So you just got to trust that, and like Emma was saying, like, the weather, your climate, so many things. You know, I don't know if hard or soft water has anything to do with it or not, but all these things, you know, contribute. So you just keep adding the flour.
You know what's coming to mind right now as you were talking about our environment? San Francisco sourdough has a rep. Do you know why?
It's because of the microbes there, something in the air.
And so it like has a specific flavor almost?
Yeah, like
or?
a terroir, like wine.
Ah.
Right?
Yes, and that started back, you know, during the California Gold Rush when, you know, all these people were like living outside and they made their own sourdough starter, so they were collecting the local microbes, and it had a distinct flavor because of where it is, and you know, salt air or whatever.
Oh,
and so that's San Francisco got famous for sourdough because it was a kind of a staple during the Gold Rush.
Like soon Three Graces Farm sourdough. It's going to be like, hey,
Right.
we know that.
So I'll take the opportunity at this point to say, when you might think, oh, I'd like to try sourdough bread to see how it tastes, and you go to the store and you see a package that's labeled sourdough, it's highly unlikely that it's really sourdough. They'll add vinegar to give it the tangy taste, or other, you know, chemical concoctions to make it like, you know, tangier like that, and that people recognize as kind of a sourdough taste. But real sourdough has to start with this, the starter that's made of different microbes that create the flavor. That's the fermented flavor.
So don't be fooled by just the label. Pay attention. If it has vinegar on the ingredients.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
sourdough.
No, okay.
Yeah. And I don't think you're going to, you know, sourdough is, it's more of a kind of an artisan thing. So I
It's
don't,
hard to find in the store.
I don't know if you could find real sourdough packaged up and on a grocery store shelf. I don't know.
Unless it's like a co-op or a natural, like,
Right, or
local store.
if somebody brings it in, and you know, I just don't know about that, you know.
So forget the stores. Just make this.
Yeah.
That's why we're here today. Okay.
There are some things that, you know, can only be made like, you know, small scale on your own. Some types of food just are not suited for industrial and widespread distribution. They just some foods just aren't appropriate for shipping across the country. You know, it just doesn't work for some things. And I should say that there might be some legitimate sourdough breads that are sold out there distributed widely. That could be. But my guess is that they're not gigantic operations. That they're smaller artisan that, you know, have a distribute to certain areas.
Absolutely.
Or locally, you know, we have some local bakers around here.
Sure. And I was just thinking about the Weston A. Price Foundation has chapters all around the world, and a chapter leader can help you find sources of probably local sourdough bread if you ask them. Or
Right.
the foundation has a shopping guide too, so they might have some leads there.
Yeah.
But I'm intent on this process. I'm eager to learn more about
You
this.
just added a bunch of flour.
Yeah, I'm just slowly thickening it up, and pretty soon here we're gonna have to dig in with our hands, people. So, you know, if you want to have that experience, then, you know, now's your chance. But we're getting close to that. Speaking of local sourdough, in our little town here, there's a couple that bakes sourdough bread every week, and on Sunday mornings they take like 10 loaves into the local hardware store. And so if you want their bread, you have to show up early at the hardware store and get it. It's really cute. And when they're sold out, they're sold out.
It's good for the hardware store business.
Yes. I'm going to keep going here. I have
There's
no...
also, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, we know some people in Virginia that have started the Common Grain Alliance,
Yes.
which is a group sort of based in the Mid-Atlantic to locate and support and build a stronger connection between local grain growers and just sort of spread the word about how important local grains is, and helping to educate farmers and how to farm grain. So if you're really into bread baking and you're really into being local and nutritious and all those things, the flour is super important, and that's a good group to look at.
And do you want to tell them about this flour? Where this comes
Sure.
from?
So this is from My Grash Farm, Randallstown, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And I met the farmer and miller. I think he does everything. It's a family operation at the Tacoma Park Farmers Market in DC, or in Tacoma Park. And so they delivered to the house, which is great.
It came to the doorstep.
He's also at the Tacoma Park Farmers Market, if you're local.
So I'm thinking of my brother-in-law who is getting into baking lately, and it might be good for him to try some of these local flours, get in touch with his Common Grain Alliance. But what if he's not making sourdough? Like, he's still getting more out of it, right?
Oh, for
than if
sure.
we're just using regular flour from the store.
And like if you're not using sourdough, then you're using probably store-bought yeast. And so it's still leavening, it's still rising. It does not have the microbial diversity of a sourdough, but it still has benefits, of course.
It might be time for hands.
Not quite. Close. I'm going to do one more.
That's probably why your sourdough doesn't come out as good as your mom's.
I'm probably not being a very good role model. He'll not measuring the flour.
No, it's fine. You mean more's coming in?
Yes.
I wanted to work out, but this is for real.
Okay, stir that up a little bit, and then I think it is time for hands.
I'm splashing the flour.
Now, I like to coat my hands with butter or oil before I get in there.
Let's do that, for sure.
You ready? Okay, we're going to go coat our hands. But, all right, so now we're to the point where there's so much flour in there, a spoon's not working anymore. So we oiled our hands with coconut oil, and we're going to get in here and just mix it up. And you turn it over and over, and then push with the heel of your hand.
Okay.
It's kind of a technique. And then as you go, you're going to see what's still stuck in the bowl there and just pick it up and dig it out. And we want the bowl, ideally the bowl will come clean when it's all assimilated, but einkorn flour doesn't do that as readily as other flours do. So we just do the best we can. Okay, go for it, Hilda. So kind of turn the whole thing over on its back, and then fold the sides over. Now it feels
so good.
Yeah.
And I love that sourdough smell.
It's really beginning to take on the texture that you want. Can you feel that, how it's sort of coming together?
Yes.
Now? And
it almost lifted up the bowl.
Then it reaches a point where it begins to get sticky again, at which point I'm going to add a little more flour.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting sticky again.
Okay, I'm just going to add a
little more. It's like peanut butter or something right now, almost.
You want it to get it, you're going to move it through that sticky phase. Okay, just do the same thing.
This does feel really satisfying.
It's a wonderful texture. What you're going for is for it to feel like a baby's bottom.
And I was just thinking about how you said you sometimes get texts from people and questions like, is my starter okay?
Yeah.
How can we kind of relax into this process more, Mary?
Well, just keep in mind that people have been doing this for a really long time. And people do it all different ways. And just follow a few guidelines. Follow your instincts. And you're not going to go too wrong. Worst case scenario, it doesn't turn out. Sure, I've had plenty of loaves of bread that I just didn't go well. And, I compost it or give it to the chickens, no big deal. It doesn't happen that often. It does happen. But just let yourself go and play with it. Just play. I guess that's the bottom line. Just be willing to play.
So I can kind of start tossing this around?
Yeah. That's looking really good, Hilda.
I like how it feels.
It's a delightful feel. And then when the bowl feels too constricting, we'll put it on this, and we'll have even more. But I don't like to put it on this when it's too sticky because it just makes a big mess.
You feel it and see what you think.
Okay, this is going along really, really well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do. Okay, on this side, I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the board. And now I'm going to this is kind of like the final thing. Make sort of like a neat little ball out of it.
It does look like a baby's bottom.
Yeah, feel it. Isn't that great? And it even has like a sound, like a timbre. When it's good. This is a good dough. It's such a good dough. It's perfect. Oh, here, rub it with the flour like that. That's
Yes.
perfect. What I've done now, I'm going to get a clean bowl.
Okay.
And I'm going to just lift this up and place it in. Yeah, and then we will cover it up and let it rise. I would let this rise at least 8 to 12 hours. Like it's a good thing to do it overnight, and you know, like in the evening or you know in the afternoon or something, and then go for it the next morning. The reason is you're giving the sourdough, the microbes, more of a time to pre-digest all of those components that are typically kind of hard on the human digestive system.
So you don't want to hurry this step.
It is not something to hurry. Now, you know, you can buy the commercial yeast that say, oh, it only has to rise 1 hour, or, you know, or 2 or 3 or whatever, and that's okay. You're just missing an opportunity to increase the bioavailability of the nutrients in the bread. And the combination of using the ancient wheat and the sourdough method, where you're letting it have a slow fermentation and a slow rise, you're really amping up the food value of this bread. Now, I let mine rise for a full 36 hours.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with waiting longer.
No, it just keeps fermenting and keeps fermenting. It will increase the tanginess of the flavor.
Nice.
So you can experiment with it and see where, okay, that's tangy enough, then you know you can back up on the rise time. But I would give it at least, just start out with 8 to 12 hours.
Okay.
And 24 hours is good too. After that, it's just a matter of taste. And then that works, that 36-hour rise works well with this recipe because this, you know, we put the honey in. So the sourdough has plenty to feed on during that time. If you used a recipe with that didn't have any added sugar or anything, it might not go that long. It might rise to a point and then start deflating because the sourdough had already eaten all the goodies.
So every now and then, over those 8 or 12 hours, you might take a peek, see how it's doing.
Yes. In fact, I would put this in like the night before, and then in the morning I would punch it down. Punch it down again and let it start over. You know, you can let it do that 2 or 3 times during the time period. Just whatever.
Punching kind of wakes it up.
Yeah.
In some ways, I mean.
Yes, and I can demonstrate punching down because I have a.
Oh, let's punch down.
Okay.
I have some aggression I need to get out.
Okay, we're gonna punch down. Okay, let me just start talking and then that'll. Okay.
Are we punching or dividing? No, I want to know.
Both. Okay. So this has been rising for a few hours, and it's ready to divide and make into loaves to bake. Okay. So this is what you do. You punch it down and get it out of the bowl. Make sure you have some flour on your board here.
Oh, my baby.
I might need a little more flour.
I was thinking a moment ago about how I was joking about having aggression and needing to get out, although maybe I do have some. But you actually need to think about what intention you're putting into your food a little bit too, right? Or am I getting too woo-woo? Like, in other words, don't be like, I hate this person. Like, that's kind of putting bad vibes into your sourdough
you
bread.
can totally, the way you're feeling, you know, when you're doing this, I think it totally, you know, you're putting love and care and attention into the food. Well, I'm just
not as much
reducing.
punching as I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Now, all right. So now it's, you know, it's punched down. It's reduced. Now we're going to divide it into loaves that can yet rise again to bake. All right. Now. So let's divide it into 2. Emma, can you run get me a knife?
Yeah.
The baby
Is
loaf.
that our baby loaf?
Maybe you need to name your knives. Like, this is Mr.
Yeah.
Big Stuff.
Okay, I'm just literally splitting the dough in half. Because this recipe makes 2 loaves.
Okay.
All right, now I'm gonna do. Yeah, let's play with it. I'm gonna do what's called boule. Boule. Is that French for ball?
I think so.
Yeah. So I like that. You know why? Because it's less stuff to wash later. So you don't want this sticking to the board.
Got it.
If it's sticking to the board, then you just need more flour. Okay. And just, you know.
You know, I've always felt like I'm a person that's not good at making things with my hands. But maybe I've, told myself that too much.
It's a
Maybe
story.
I need to just try, right?
It's just a story.
Yeah, it's a story that's not serving me.
Right. So just fold it over and over and then make kind of a little ball. And then sort of shape it with your hands. And then you're going to drop it like this. This is to get the kind of air pockets out of it. So you might want to, so once you get, let me show you a technique.
Please do.
Yeah,
Step
okay.
right up.
So,
My story is not serving me.
okay. So like just fold it over because you're intentionally like pressing out the bubbles and stuff. So like a little package like that. And then when you turn it over, you've already got kind of a little shape. And then you just sort of do this, do this. And then you can start dropping it.
I was dropping it too soon.
Well, you were kind of doing this.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so just, it feels really good to kind of make that little,
Like a baby bottom.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, am I doing it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, see, we want to get these out. So you press them out. Press them out through the heel of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Fold, press, fold over again. Press those out. And now you begin to shape it. Let's see.
It's like you want the smoothness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No cracks.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just kind of fun. And
What you're shooting for.
yeah. And it's just, yeah. So see, and then you sort of do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's very soft. It's like Play-Doh, malleable. That's beautiful. Do you want to just feel that and kind of get the feel of it a little bit?
Mm.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful.
Okay, now we're going to put it on a tray and let it rise for the bake.
What do you mean let it rise for the bake?
It's going to rise again. And then you will bake it.
But you mean it rises before you bake it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. So that's why you were saying it was multiple steps, Emma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, where are the multiple steps? You put it together and it rises, and then you bake it.
Oh,
But
no.
There's one more.
Well,
at
we
least.
had the 12 to 36 hour step.
Yeah.
And then you punch it down again and let it rise again, and then you split the dough and.
So it's to rise like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3 times during that period.
Okay, let's put it on trays.
Okay. We split the dough in half and made 2 little boules or loaves, and it has been there for a few hours, and now it's ready to put in the oven.
Great.
Okay, so we're
Wait, hold on.
Yes, okay.
You're like, we're almost done. This has taken so much time. I'm seriously like, what? I thought we could just like work with the dough, toss it in the oven,
Yeah, well, real food takes time to prepare, because what has happened in our modern world is the industrial food system has taken all the preparation away from us in the name of the almighty convenience, so that we have more time to do things. Now,
Buy things.
yeah. So, what do we do with that time that we have gained when we don't have to prepare our food? What do you do with your extra time that you're not using to make your bread? Because you can just go to the supermarket and you can buy that bread that's been shipped thousands of miles, wrapped in plastic, and sitting on the shelf for weeks. So what are you doing with your extra time?
Well, it's not leisure time. I'm really just working, actually,
Yeah.
I think.
Does that feel good? Is that the way? Is that what you want? I mean, that's okay. It's everybody's choice.
Right.
So you see, we don't make time or save time or spend time. All we have is time. But what we get to do is choose what we want to do with it.
Wait, I love what you just said. We don't make time. We don't save time. We don't spend time.
Yeah.
There just is time.
And we just choose what we're doing with it.
Seriously,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
amazing.
When you think about it, we have the same 24 hours a day that our grandparents did and our ancestors. It's the same thing. We just do different things with them.
But we've been sold the lie that certain conveniences are going to help us save time so that
Yes.
we can have more fun, right?
Not everybody would choose to spend the time making bread. that's fine. That's your choice. But if you do choose to spend the time and appreciate where the flour came from and where the story behind the sourdough and the process of it fermenting and rising and the process of it making the nutrients more available to your body so it's healthier. It's like the opposite of fast food. It's slow food, and it's slow living to prepare real food. So not everyone might make that choice, and that is okay. You might have other things you want to do. That's fine. But the important thing is that you can choose. You can be aware why you would choose to buy the pre-made industrial bread over making your own. And you might have very good reasons. This is not a judgment or saying you should do this or should do that. It's just a way of making people think about things in a different way.
I love it. Well, you're making me think for sure.
And I also will say that it might seem kind of complicated because we're trying to demonstrate, we're talking about every step, but it's really quite simple. It's just a few ingredients, you put them together, you weigh, you punch them down a few times, then you bake, and it's really quite a simple process. Once you get the flow, it's really no big deal. So there are a couple of things we need to do before we put it into bake. The first one is scoring, which means putting little cuts in the bread. Now scoring is...
I was wondering why you were holding that knife. I was getting scared. I was like, did I antagonize Mary?
There's actually a real art to scoring. You see beautiful pictures on Instagram of all the designs of flowers, and I'm not a bread artist, so I just make a little slice right here. It's so as the bread bakes, it has room to open up and the heat can get down in there and it releases the moisture. Yes, you can. Just a little. You don't have to go very deep. Just let some of the moisture out. And you can even, you can go crossways or, make a little design or, just, yeah.
I want to make a H for Holistic Hilda.
Okay, you do that.
Also, it looks like tic-tac-toe, actually, so I might as well finish it up. Okay, there.
Okay, good. I might add just a little one across here, like hot cross buns or whatever. Okay, and the second thing I'm going to do is do a little egg wash on it. This gives it a nice gloss.
What if you didn't do that?
It just wouldn't be it wouldn't have a little kind of shiny hard crust. And this is I just broke an egg in a bowl and added a little water until it was thin enough to spread, that's all. Some other people out there might have other suggestions, maybe just using the egg white. I don't know. Like I said, I tend to just do things my way.
I like your way.
For better or worse.
I feel like Michelangelo right now.
Yeah. Have you seen pictures on Instagram or whatever of
I have.
all the beautiful...
I have. But I've also been happily encouraged by people posting pictures of their failures,
Absolutely.
A friend of mine is like, oh, this was my first try, and we still ate it. It didn't always turn out great.
Most of the time there's this issue or that, with it, it got a little too done underneath, or, maybe... it wasn't quite brown enough. I mean, there's always some little thing. You're always trying to tweak.
But it's always edible.
Always really, really not only edible, but just delicious, It's like whatever it looks like, it's good. So, okay, now we're going to put this in the oven. We're ready. It's baking, Hilda. Are you encouraged?
I think so.
So you preheated the oven, you said.
I
To
did.
what temperature?
I put it on 375.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I do it 400, 420. I experiment with the different temperatures, actually. This time I put it on 375, which is the lowest I would do it because sometimes the bottom will get a little too brown. So anyway, I'm gonna put it in here. Put it in the middle. And there you go.
How long?
Oh, until we start smelling it.
Mary doesn't say.
What does the book say, your recipe book?
I don't know. It's going to be, I would say, 35 to 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll start smelling it. And it's like, that smells like baking bread. And then I'll check it and, do a little done test. And it's a little bit of a process deciding when it's ready to come out.
Oh.
Yeah.
So next we're going to have to learn how the done test.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
needs to go back in a little bit. So yeah, it's gonna go back in. It's closed.